Hey folks, this is Paul Glasgow with Legally Armed America, and you are joining us as I adjust my chair for tonight's live stream. Friday Night Gun News. When else will we have this? You got to have Friday Night Gun News on Friday night, right? All right, you guys know the drill. Let me get on here. Those of you that have not been on here before will know that I try to get on immediately and bring up the page with all the comments, so that I can welcome everybody into the room, at least at first, because it gets a little bit hard to do that as the stream goes on and people pile into the room. So let me get in here. Here we go. And let me turn my volume down so I don't get feedback. And all right, here we go. Some of our friends are already in here. Shark Chucker, welcome. Let me turn my monitor a little bit. Gilbert's in here. What's up, man? Willie Dick. Richard Portella's in here. Richard Kaiser. JR 1888. Robert Bunton. Peter Aker. Ashley LeComte. Eric, excuse me, I just lost that. Where'd it go? Eric Granick. DB Cooper. Billy Wilder. Sarasota Shaners. Fresh Fowler. Will C. Brian Rhodes. John Diffie. H. Kreider. Santa Cruzan. Martin M. Zach Briggs, Milspec Grunt, Brent Flash. What's up, Brent? I will keep hitting that a little bit as everybody kind of rolls in, and as I can see everybody when they come rolling in. A few things I want to go over really quick, because I guess there's not a. It's funny how the gun community, as far as new stuff coming out, you're really going to start hearing about it next week as we get 1 week away from SHOT Show. So that's whenever you're really going to start hearing a lot of buzz. So the gun community has been kind of muted right now because they're kind of holding all their cards that they want to play and create that buzz going right into SHOT Show. So that's why there's not a ton merchandise-wise that you hear about. It's going on. It's just that it's not being talked about right now. I'm trying to see if there was much that I had looked at earlier, going through all the news, anything that was relevant to talk about. I don't see a lot here. Let me look over here real quick. One thing that was kind of interesting that I'm going to do a video on, the Department of Justice. Where is that? Now I'm not going to be able to find it. Here we go. The Department of Justice did a study and released their results here lately on where criminals get their guns. It's actually pretty interesting. Again, that's why I'm going to do a full video on it. But in a nutshell, it says among prisoners serving time for a crime during which they possessed a gun, about half got their weapons either on the underground market, which was 43% of those, or through theft, 6%. Meanwhile, 10% bought guns from a retail source, including 0.8% who bought them at gun shows. You know that really evil, awful gun show loophole that we keep talking about? 0.8, less than 1% of criminals have gotten their guns from there. And I find that number to be actually kind of suspect, because I see the people who come through at gun shows, and gun shows aren't exactly welcoming to the kind of people who might be looking at a life of crime for a living. So I don't know if I believe that 0.8%, but it's out there nonetheless. I guess if you discredit that number, you have to discredit all of them. But anyway, it says another 11% of the time someone else bought the gun for them, either as a gift or as a straw purchase. Roughly 15% got guns from family and friends, buying, renting, trading, borrowing, and 12% of the time the guns were either bought, 12% of the time, the guns were either brought to the crime by someone else or found at the scene. I don't know what that's even supposed to mean. Excuse me. Where was something else that I had read? Anyway, I'm going to break these numbers down because they're pretty interesting as far as going into detail of them and finding out all the details that they have that most people don't really think about, and they really debunk a whole lot of what people talk about and think that are actual facts when they are not, in fact, facts. Let's see, looking back real quick, those of you that I have not, Scaring Bob Douglas Smith, L.I. Digger, Rich in the USA, Fresh Fowler, Chief Technical Wizard, Roger Kaiser. I think I said Roger Button already, Eric Davis, Ty J, Dorsey Kyler, Joel Stefanich. Joel asks, when is the VR80 videos about the 9-round mag and a 19-round mag coming? Actually, very soon. If it doesn't rain all day tomorrow, I may shoot some of it tomorrow. It's not going to take much. I just want to introduce those 2 magazines. But what he's talking about is there are 2 additional magazines that I had sent to me that are for the VR80 shotgun by Rock Island Armory. It ships with a 5-round magazine with it, but they have additional 9 and 19 rounds. Now, to put it into perspective, a box of shotgun shells holds, most of them hold 25 shells. You can put 19 in this magazine. This magazine is like 2 magazines connected to each other, and it's long and just kind of curved, and it holds 19, almost an entire box of shells. Killer Caller is in here. Let's see, Romeo Santana. Rich A, DB Cooper. I think I mentioned you already. I think you guys are still rolling in, so I'm gonna run on with everything else. I've got a lot to talk about. I really had more to talk about, but as I started picking apart and making all my notes and doing all my highlighting of this brand new bill by Republican Marco Rubio, you know, a lot of times we get lost in this whole thing that Democrats are the ones that's coming after our guns. You know, we talk about this all the time. I know I do, that Democrats are clearly not the only ones after guns. We have a lot of ignorant Republicans out there that simply don't know anything about guns. They don't care about guns. And those guys are just as scary, if not more scary, because it's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house, so to speak, although I don't think any of us look at a Republican as providing any kind of real protection to us. But nevertheless, those guys, it's like you let the killer into your house kind of thing. You know what I mean? Those guys are somewhat welcomed into our circles. So it makes it dangerous that they are privy to conversations that they probably should not be, because they're no different than most of the Democrats that are trying to take our guns. It's just that the Republicans usually are not trying to actively take your guns. They just don't stop the Democrats from taking them from us. Well, usually that's the case. But in this case, Marco Rubio himself is sponsoring a bill. He is the one putting forth this bill. This is not one where he's co-sponsoring. This is one where he is putting it forward. It is essentially a red flag law bill, and they call it an extreme risk protection order bill. It's like anything else that these guys put out. They have to sugarcoat the title. Instead of saying screw due process bill, that's what it should be called, a screw due process bill, take the guns. They call it an extreme risk protection order and violence prevention act, because they know their bills will prevent violence. So that's why they call them this. So they candy coat this thing so that you feel good about having due process taken away from you, and in the meantime having your guns taken away from you. I am going to go through this whole thing. I was not going to, but as I kept reading it, this needs to be read from front to back. I've highlighted parts of it, so I won't bore you with every single word, but you need to know about this thing. Let me just skip through all of my highlighted notes so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Such extreme risk protection order legislation is an important tool. Now, this is not my opinion. I'm reading from this paper. Is an important tool in the efforts of states. And now they're going to mention Indian tribes in here, because Indian tribes obviously are like their own land, and typically they don't follow the same types of laws that we do, but they're purposely including Indian tribes in here also, which is kind of unusual, because usually you don't see it say the state and Indian tribes in a bill that's being put forward. It's just usually not that normal. So they're really being clear that this is going to apply to Indian tribes as well. To ensure that firearms and ammunition are kept out of the hands of individuals whom a court has determined to be a significant danger to themselves or others. The term extreme risk protection order means a written order issued by a state or signed by a magistrate that for a period not to exceed 12 months. So these things are going to be limited, making it sound like this is a good thing. They're going to be limited to 12 months. However, let me say this real quick. It's not going to be limited to 12 months. It just means that it can be renewed again every 12 months. It could go on forever for somebody's life. So don't think that just because it's limited to not exceed 12 months that they will expire. Yeah, they expire, but 30 days before they expire, or maybe 60 days before they expire, a note goes out to the person who made the claim to say, hey, do you want to renew this? Unbelievable. These extreme risk protection orders will prohibit the individual named in the order from having under the custody or control of the individual, purchasing, possessing, or receiving any firearms, and requires a firearm to be removed. The term family or household member means with respect to any individual related by blood, marriage, or adoption to the respondent. The respondent is the person who this extreme risk protection order is going to be filed against. So when you hear me say respondent, this is the person who's being disenfranchised, the person who's being accused of being too dangerous to be able to own guns. That can mean, again, blood, marriage, or adoption to the respondent. A dating partner, can't see that going south, can you? Can't see that becoming a problem. It gets better. An individual who has a child in common with the respondent, can't see that going south, can you? Somebody who's not married to somebody who had a kid with them, who's not living with them, and now I have a new girlfriend or wife, and my old girlfriend or wife now has a new boyfriend or husband. Yeah, I can't see that becoming ugly. I can't see there being any BS going on there. I can't see somebody casting the wrong blame on somebody and getting somebody's guns taken away from them based on lies. I can't see that going south. Can you? And let me back up a second. Individual who has a child in common with the respondent, regardless of whether the individual has been married to the respondent, lived together with the respondent at any time. An individual who resides or has resided with the respondent during the past year. Here we go again. Girlfriends, boyfriends, roommates, anything like that. A spouse or intimate partner. Individual who has a biological or legal parent-child relationship with the respondent, including a step-parent, stepchild, and grandparent-grandchild relationship. Again, how can this go wrong? I mean, it seems so perfect and so well put together. God. All right, it goes on in detail, and I'm gonna summarize it myself. I'm gonna paraphrase it. It goes on. It talks about how all these things have to take place. You have to petition the courts. The courts have to tell you, okay, you can take his guns, you can do this, you can do that, or. So there's like this process that they start off talking about, that this whole process has to take place this way. Or if you want it to take place faster, you can have a temporary ex parte extreme risk protection order. So you got two types of risk protection orders. You have the regular one, which takes a little bit longer. You have to petition the courts. During petitioning the courts, you have both parties. The accusing party that says Paul is not sane enough or healthy enough or safe enough to have guns, so I think Paul should have his guns taken from him. But at least I'm present. At least I'm there. What an ex parte arrangement means, or ex parte ruling, or what do they call it? Ex parte extreme risk protection order. What that means is ex parte means that one of the parties is not there. So in the original extreme risk protection order request, the accusing party has to be there and the accused have to be there. In an ex parte one, only the accuser has to be there. So I don't have to be there per the courts to defend myself, and they will still issue this order. So first of all, I don't even understand why they even put the beginning of it in here of the risk protection order, because they don't have to go through that long drawn out process. They can go straight to just ignoring the fact that I need to be present, file this with the courts, and the courts can issue this. That's the dangerous part. What they're trying to say, and you're going to hear Marco Rubio talk about this. Marco talks about the first part. Marco and all the other people that want to make you feel good about this and make you feel comfortable with having your Second Amendment rights stripped from you based on a hunch, because that's what it is, based on a hunch, based on a fantasy that you might do harm to yourself or somebody else, because it is. It's a guess. It's a wild guess. There's no way of knowing. But they're going to pitch this thing to you saying that, hey, man, there's all this due process. We've got due process in here because you have to petition the courts. Your petition has to qualify to the state. A judge has to approve that, and then you have your guns taken from you. So there's your due process. Well, wait a minute, guys. Let's go to page number 5 where we have an ex parte extreme risk protection order. Because what that is it details how I don't need to be present and how you can expedite the entire thing without me there to defend myself, and you can still get a risk protection order without me being present, without me being able to say, no, that's not true, without me being able to say my side of it, and they can still go in there using the exact same guidelines and avoid any due process and come to my house and take my guns from me because they decided that an ex parte extreme risk protection order was in order and that they didn't want me there. There's no like super secret handshake that has to happen for this to take place. They can very easily do this. Again, there's not something that they're saying, all these things, if you have to have exhausted the right way to have done this, well, there's no right way to do this. What am I saying? They should have at least said that if the person hasn't tried to do this, this, or this. No, they're not even saying that there should be conditions leading up to an ex parte extreme risk protection order. They're just saying, or you can have an extreme risk protection order by using ex parte where the other party's not even present. Minimum requirements for extreme risk protection order. This is under the ex parte. A law enforcement officer or family or household member of an individual may submit a petition to state courts administration. Okay, here we go. These are the things that they have to, I guess, not prove because they don't have to. You can't prove a hunch. Describe the facts and or circumstances necessitating that an extreme risk protection order be issued against the respondent because the respondent, this is what, I love this phrase, I highlighted this. Because the respondent poses a significant danger of causing personal injury to himself or others, having a firearm or ammunition in his, by having a firearm ammunition in his custody or control. I'm trying to skip around. I'm reading ahead to my stuff here. No, this is the part that I like. Stating the specific facts that give rise to reasonable fear of significant dangerous acts by the respondent. Okay, so for someone to convince a judge that I need to have my guns unconstitutionally taken from me, guns that I had background checks done on and that I legally purchased, that person, the accuser, has to state the specific facts that give rise to reasonable fear. You see what I'm saying? They have to state facts that give rise to reasonable fear. So you need to tell a judge why you have reasonable fear based on facts. Okay, these are hunches. These are not facts. You are speculating that a person is going to commit a crime when they have not committed the crime yet. How can you state specific facts? There are none. There's none. They haven't committed the crime yet. No one has been hurt. Nobody's been hurt in any kind of way. But you need to give those facts that have given you rise to reasonable fear. Or identifies the quantities, types, and they have to identify the quantities, types, and locations of all the firearms and ammunition in that person's home so that they can come and take them. The issuance of extreme risk protection orders, you have a hearing. The hearing is to be held no later than 14 days after the date of the order. Oh, man. So you got a 14-day window after the accusation has been made that you're too dangerous to have guns. All right. Let me ask you this. This is where we start getting into the weeds with this thing. If the person is truly a danger, if they are truly a danger to themselves or anybody, why would we give a 2-week cushion, a 2-week time frame to allow the courts to review this thing to see if this person who's supposedly this dangerous, so dangerous that he needs to take his ability to protect himself and his family away from him, he's that dangerous. We're willing to render him defenseless because he is such a danger. But we're going to give ourselves 14 days to review this because we may not have time to get to it. If personal safety is truly what we're after here, why are we willing to wait 14 days? Do you realize what can happen in 14 days? I'm not saying that we need to make it 1 or 2 days. I'm not saying this needs to happen at all. What I'm saying is the guy is he truly a danger to himself or others? If you're willing to wait 14 days before you visit this thing to see if he even needs to take his guns taken from him. No logic was used in putting this together. If the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the respondent poses a significant danger of causing personal injury to himself or herself or others by having in his or her custody or control or by purchasing, possessing, or receiving a firearm or ammunition, the court shall issue an extreme risk protection order for a period the court determines is appropriate, which may not exceed 12 months. There again, they can renew it every 12 months. So it's not like, oh, cool, it expires in 12 months. No, it doesn't. You're going to get a reminder saying, do you want to still pursue this with this person? Consideration of evidence. In general, in determining whether to issue an extreme risk protection order, the court may consider relevant evidence such as, get this, this is the evidence that a person has to have to provide to a court to be able to see if a person like me needs to take my guns away from me. Consider relevant evidence such as a recent threat or act of violence by the respondent against himself or herself or others. Here we go with the whole Facebook, social media thing. If you have ever put anything, all these things come together. Your red flag laws and your scrubbing or looking at social media. You know, they say you got to watch your social media history. All this comes together because if you say, let's say you post something and somebody gets, ugly with you, and we know how social media people are, the keyboard warriors out there. Nobody really is hurting anybody online. It's just not, they threaten everybody all the time. But if you say, I'm going to kick your ass or, meet me at the city dump or something like that, that's a threat. That's a threat. So all of you out there who are online and maybe post something on a YouTube video, maybe you see a video about Antifa, maybe you have an Antifa person who is threatening you and you tell them, come to my house and I'll kick your ass. That's a threat. It's a qualifying threat. Whether it's a threat to defend yourself or whatever, it is a threat. It does not say in here if somebody threatens to beat you up and you respond by saying, I will beat you up, that's exempted. That's not exempted. That's still a threat. You are going to be susceptible to these things. That's what people need to bring to a court to get your guns taken away. If you say something on Facebook, it is a recent threat. It is an act of violence by respondent against himself or herself. What if you say something like that, I don't know, this makes me want to kill myself or something like that, and a joke. It's words on paper, They may consider a threat or act of violence by the respondent against himself or herself or others in the past 12 months. So they're giving themselves a window of a whole year to be able to go back and justify that. So let's go back to the ex-wife, ex-girlfriend. You got a 12-month window to keep your stuff clean, man. You better not send your ex-girlfriend a text saying that if you're with that guy again, I'm going to kick your ass. Or remember what happened last time. Or I'm not promoting violence. Let's get the disclaimer out of the way now. But you got to really watch what you do electronically, social media and through text messaging and emails. You got to really watch what you do, because anything can be taken out of context. Anything can. Some of the most innocent things that we text back and forth to each other, an attorney can read through that, take it out of context, and it can be considered a threat. And in a judge's eyes, if the judge does not yet know you or your ex-spouse or ex-girlfriend, that can be seen as a threat very, very easily. So we're talking about possible threats. Also, stalking another person, who defines stalking, and at what point? Do you have to be convicted of stalking, or is stalking just perceived as, oh, this person here went and looked at this one's Facebook page 10 times in the last month? Corroborated evidence. This is going to be the one that is the catch-all. Corroborated evidence of the abuse of controlled substances or alcohol by the respondent. Oh my gosh. Shall consider whether a mental health evaluation or chemical dependency evaluation is appropriate. We're going to get into the corruption part of this in a minute. And this is not a tinfoil hat thing, I'm telling you guys. This is based on the history of our government and how bureaucracies work. But can you see the correlation of these red flag laws and them keeping certain industries in business? If you now have a condition, kind of like a condition of parole, but you now have a condition that will allow you to get your guns back. If you are considered to be drinking, let's see, let me get the right word again. If you have abused alcohol or drugs, but I'm using alcohol as an example because I know a guy who drinks beer. This video could be considered me abusing alcohol, by the way. You can very easily create industries that will make a lot of money off of this stuff. Because if this video is used as evidence A in getting my guns taken from me because I'm abusing alcohol, obviously, right? Well, I'm going to want to do everything I can other than sue the brakes off the people who did this. But I'm going to want to do everything that I can to make sure that I can get my guns back somehow. So Billy over here sees this new law that's going into place, this red flag law, and he sees one of the stipulations in there that now there's going to be treatment dependency evaluations out there. Billy goes and creates his new business. You know, he's going to evaluate people who are abusing alcohol and drugs. And he's going to be the one that clears them so that they can get their guns back. Kind of like privatizing prisons, right? Same concept. The government's going to divvy out a lot of money, not ask any questions. And somebody in the private sector is going to make a whole lot of money off of the government. There's going to be some money passes under the table because, of course, that person will now pay all the legislators to keep his place open and to keep funneling all the evaluations to his business. So this one pays that one and that one pays this one. Everything's legal. Don't think this can't be abused. I haven't even gotten into the money portion of it yet. Okay. It's just talking about you surrendering your, yeah, this must be important. Look how I make my notes whenever I think something's really important to read. Oh, here we go. Let's get into the temporary ex parte extreme risk protection order. In general, upon receipt of petition under paragraph 1, the court may issue a temporary ex parte extreme risk protection order before conducting the hearing required under paragraph. So in other words, if they feel like they need to do this thing immediately, again, like I said earlier, the extreme risk protection order is now an ex parte extreme risk protection order. A request for a temporary ex parte extreme risk protection order is included in petition and includes detailed allegations based on personal knowledge that the respondent posed a significant danger of causing personal injury to himself or herself or others. Same basic thing, same parameters to make this thing go through. That's what's weird about it. What's the reason for taking one or the other? Because whether it's the extreme risk protection or the ex parte one, it's the same guidelines that are put forth to make one guilty of it. So why not just have one that just circumvents the other and just do the ex parte all the time? Again, I'm not suggesting that. It's just that they put the one that includes due process in there so that they can at least say that we're acknowledging due process. Guys, we know they're not going to use the one that uses due process, because in the same bill, they have it written in there that, hey, this includes due process, but if we don't want to use due process, we don't have to, because it's in the same bill. Why would you go through the trouble of due process if you don't have to, if the same bill protects you to violate a person's due process and to go straight after their guns? You know that's what they're going to do. They're going to take the shortcut. The due process is a waste of time for them. Why do all that? That's all additional paperwork, additional meetings, things that don't need to happen, because by law, we can just go in there and just disregard due process and not have the accused at the initial meeting and just go take his guns, file the order, get a warrant, and go to his house. I need to get to... Yeah, see, I'm halfway done with my time here, so I don't want to waste all the time on... You might be asking, how does a person, if one is locked in for 12 months, how do you get out of it? In general, the court shall vacate an extreme risk protection order if the respondent demonstrates by clear and convincing evidence that the respondent does not pose a significant danger of causing personal injury to himself or herself or others by having in his or her custody the guns, blah, blah, blah. The problem with that, guys, is that the person who makes the initial accusation and accuses the other person of it is always going to be looked at as having more credibility. Always will. Because that's like saying, I know you are, what am I? You know what I mean? If my ex-wife, and I don't have an ex-wife, but if I get divorced and I suddenly have an ex-wife, and if she reports me, which I'm going to be in big trouble, if she reports me, they're going to immediately assume that she's legit. So when I go in there and try to tell them how crazy she is, well, obviously they're just going to think I'm retaliating and I'm mad, so they're not going to take my word for it. So when you try to defend yourself, good luck. Get a good attorney. That's the best advice I can give you. Do not do this on your own. Get a very good attorney. The attorneys out there, I'm not trying to sell you on attorneys, but get a good attorney. Extension order, I don't believe in that, but you can get this thing not later than 30 days before the date on which an extreme order, risk order, protection order is set to expire. The court shall provide notice to the petitioner, that's the accuser, of such expiration date. So for 12 months, my guns are taken from me and I cannot have them or ammunition. But 30 days, 1 month before it's set to expire, that 12-month period of time, my accuser is going to get an email or a call or a letter, certified letter, whatever, saying, hey, Paul's going to get his gun back in, 30 days. What do you want to do? Guys, I have a real problem with something. And this is going to sound a little bit unusual based on what this conversation we're having right now is. But if a person is truly a threat, does that threat really go away after 12 months? The person, okay, the people who know people better than anybody is a person who lives with you. If my wife tries to get an extreme protection order against me, we are getting a divorce. You hear what I'm saying? we will be getting a divorce. I will not stay with the person who gets my guns taken away from me. That's not going to happen. So when that happens, and 11 months later, they call my now ex-wife and say, hey, this thing expires. Well, she's not living with me now. Why are they calling her? So now she's going to be the one that they're going to say, yeah, he's still kind of cuckoo. He's still kind of crazy. Don't let him have his guns back. Are they going to give me the chance to prove how non-cuckoo I am? I mean, this is dangerous, y'all. This is dangerous. Okay, here we go. This is pretty interesting. If a court receives sworn testimony from an individual alleging that not all firearms required to be surrendered by a respondent under a temporary ex parte extreme risk protection order or the regular extreme risk protection order that uses actual due process, these guns have not been surrendered, the court shall issue a warrant for the seizure of the remaining firearms or ammunition. You guys might remember the guy up in, was it Virginia or Maryland, who they went to his house. Apparently he did not give all of his guns up, or they didn't believe that he gave all of his guns up. Went to his house to take all the rest of them. He met them at the door with a gun, like most people will. They shot him. They killed him. They killed the guy in his own house. And they go on to say that, again, this is their way to try to say that they're going to police this and that they're going to somehow or another do all these wonderful things to make sure that that this isn't abused. They say that if you give false information, they will establish a felony criminal offense for knowingly making a false statement under oath in the hearing. Okay, for knowingly. I got you. So when that person falsely accuses me of wanting to kill them, they knowingly didn't make a false statement because they thought it was true. So when you ask me, did you knowingly make that, or they asked that person, did you knowingly make that false statement against Paul? No, I mean, I really believe that he was going to kill somebody. So even their own wording is giving the person an out to where if I want to accuse somebody, what do you think I'm going to do? Let's say I'm the jerk who's going to make a false claim against somebody. I'm going to go read this first because I want to know what I'm accusing somebody of. And when I get to page 24, line 3, and it says, I start reading it going, oh crap, I might get a felony criminal offense against me if I knowingly make a false statement under oath. Okay, well, no one can prove that I knowingly did that or didn't knowingly do that. So there's my out. I got my out right here. So I circle it just like I did right there, so that whenever I bring it to my attorney, I can say, hey, look, I didn't knowingly make this false statement. Yeah, that statement was untrue. Now we know, but I didn't knowingly make that. I didn't knowingly make that statement. And my attorney's going to love that. Oh, here's the really cool thing. This is really cool. Let's all remember that Marco Rubio, a Republican, is the one who penned this. He is the sponsor of this. I'm just going to paraphrase. For me to get my guns back, I get to have a timely background check under federal law. So all these guns that I already bought legally and that I performed a full-blown background check on all of them, I get to have another background check done to make sure that I can legally possess my guns again. It does say that an option for a respondent to elect to transfer all firearms and ammunition owned by the respondent that have been ordered to be surrendered or seized to another individual who is willing to receive them. So supposedly I can get somebody else to take my weapons instead of letting the local government seize all my weapons. I mean, can you imagine the local government? If you could see all of these walls in here, imagine the local government coming in here and packing all this up and bringing it somewhere. Yeah, I doubt they'll scratch anything. Oh, and that person, if I give that person permission to hold my guns until I'm deemed legal again, he has to have background check done on him just to possess my guns. Now, you want to know how this can be corrupted? Let me abuse my alcohol again real quick before we proceed to page 28. I love it when government does stuff like this. That should say misuse of funds. But it says use of funds. Funds awarded. This is where it gets really good. This is where people get paid and where the corruption starts. See my note at the bottom? It says corruption and prisons in parentheses, because that's what's happened with the prison system. It's made into a business. And as I said earlier, the politicians let the privates, they give the contracts to the guy in the private sector who passes the money back under the table to the guy who gave them the contract from the federal government, who pays that politician, who makes sure that that person keeps the contract, who pays the politician. It's just a vicious circle. The money passes from here to here, from here to here. How do you think Maxine Waters, who entered Congress making $174,000 a year and was flat ass broke, now owns a $4.5 million mansion? Corruption at the highest level. It's not corruption though, it's lobbying. This is called business. As long as politicians are doing it, it's not corruption. Funds awarded under this section may be used by state or Indian tribe to assist law enforcement agencies or the courts of the state or Indian tribe in carrying out the provisions of the qualifying state. What they're basically saying is the federal government is going to earmark dollars that they're going to give to the local communities to enforce this. Okay. Let me finish reading this part before I get into my diatribe, because I'm pretty much done. This is the last of my notes. So once I read this portion, an eligible state or Indian tribe desiring a grant under this section shall submit to Assistant Attorney General, and then it goes on and says what their guidelines are. Here we go again. This goes into my corruption thing. Incentives. Incentives. There are incentives here. Now, let me spoil it for you. Spoiler alert here. The incentives, there's not one incentive in here that's outlined that is an incentive for making sure you don't lock a person up accidentally. There's no incentive to make the court system not make the wrong decision. There's no incentive that tries to incentivize you to make darn sure that you're making the right decision. No, there's no incentive for that. There's no incentive for doing the right thing. There's no incentive for making damn sure you do the right thing in terms of that accused person. No, that incentive does not exist in here. That's not where the incentives are. For each of fiscal years 2019 through 2023, the Attorney General shall give affirmative preference to all Bureau of Justice assistance discretionary grant applications of a state or Indian tribe that has enacted a qualifying state or tribal law. Do you understand what I just read? Under the provision of incentives, I'm going to repeat this. It does not incentivize anybody for doing the right thing. It does not incentivize anyone for screening out potentially false allegations. There's no incentive to weed out the crap or the garbage. You know what the incentive is? The incentive is for anybody who implements this program and uses this program, you will get money. All you got to do is say, I'll do it, and you get money. That's your incentive. Raise your hand and you will be incentivized. Who's not going to raise their hand? Every single local government will raise their hand because they immediately qualify. immediately qualify for incentives. I'll take some. Here you go. There's no incentive to do a good job. There's just an incentive to know that you need to go spend your money or to make money, or you're incentivized to go deposit your money. There's no incentive to make this thing work right, as if there is a way to make it work right anyway. It starts off with eliminating due process, and it ends up by incentivizing a local government by just saying, hey, I want to take part. Here's your extra money. Authorization of appropriations. There are authorized to be appropriated to carry out Part NN $20 million for each fiscal year 2019 through 2023. We can't build a wall to keep illegal aliens out, but we can damn sure spend $20 million a year, and that's just now. They'll get more money for this. They can sure afford $20 million to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights and eliminate due process to strip people of their guns. Folks, if this doesn't scare the crap out of you, I don't know what will. I can't do anything within my power to scare you more than what this should scare you. This is crazy train stuff. And I don't mean Ozzy Osbourne crazy train in a good way stuff. This is nutbag stuff. This, I will remind you, is being brought to you by Marco Rubio, who has one of these behind his name. That is not a D. That is an R. Marco Rubio is the one who put this sorry bill together to disenfranchise honest, law-abiding gun owners in America. Now, I really doubt there's any liberals on here that are thinking an opposing argument. But before anybody says, well, what do? Do nothing? We damn sure don't do this. We don't do, look, there's restraining orders out there now. There's plenty of other things you can do. Restraining orders. They get abused all the time. You don't think this is going to be heavily abused? Guys, I've said this before. It's one thing to have a politician you don't like. Because if a politician does something you don't like, or you don't like them, period, you can vote them out during their next re-election bid. Either every 2 years, every 6 years, every 4 years. You can vote out the politician that's making bad decisions. The problem is, you can vote little Marco out if you want to. But the damage that little Marco has done is still left behind. And it is really, really hard to undo a law that somebody puts forth. Just because you vote little Marco out, the bad law that he put forth, it doesn't leave with him just because he proposed and passed bad legislation. It's still in there. Little Marco's on a yacht spending all of your taxpayer money that he gets because now he has a lifetime pension. All he's got to do is serve one term and he gets his $174,000 a year every single year, and his free health care till the day he dies. So he's still spending his taxpayer dollar years after you have voted him out. But the laws that he put in place don't just go away. Now we got to vote somebody else to take his place and change those laws. And usually it's kind of hard to primary out some of these guys. So little Marco, the only way to probably get rid of little Marco is probably not to primary him out, even though that's the right way to do it. But it will probably be a Democrat that votes for him, that takes his place. Because what's going to happen is a lot of the Republicans who are true gun guys, they won't vote for the Democrat to begin with. So when Marco runs again and they say, nope, Marco's the one that passed this. So what happens? Marco gets his anti-gun law put in place. Then the Democrats then the Republicans don't vote for little Marco for re-election, so he gets beat by the Democrat, so Marco's out. Now we got another Democrat who will not undo what Marco did, because this is essentially a Democrat bill. It's just pinned by a Republican. It's just pinned by that guy with the R behind his name. This should scare the crap out of everybody. It really should, because usually whenever we see an anti-gun bill get proposed, it's typically from a Democrat. And you hear it all over social media. Oh, that'll never pass. That'll never pass. If we got Republicans that are putting forth these types of bills, the Democrats are all going to vote for them. Usually the biggest challenge to a Democrat putting forth an anti-gun bill is the fact that Republicans aren't going to vote for it. Marco will get every single Democrat, every person from the other party will vote for Marco's thing. And Marco probably is going to get a bunch of Republicans to vote for it. Don't go on social media and say this will never pass. Nothing pisses me off more than reading in comments on our videos or any of these social media posts. A lot of people out there say, oh, that'll never pass. And they get complacent and they walk away from it and act like, that's not going to pass. I'm not going to waste my time on it. Bull crap. That's how things get passed. We don't oppose them, and we don't vote them out. We don't approach our lawmakers. We don't push them to not push these things through because we think, that'll never pass. That'll never pass. It passed. What? It passed. Huh? I should have voted. Yeah. Stop saying that'll never pass. Stop it. I get it on all of my posts all the time. That'll never pass. I ain't worried about that. That's not going to pass here. Or, this is the best part. The Republicans control the Senate. That'll never pass. The Republicans control the Senate. That'll never pass. I see that on my posts all the time. All the time. Marco is a Republican in the Senate, and he wrote this damn bill. Don't tell me this crap that we got Republicans in the Senate and that'll never pass. Bull crap. The Republicans are waiting to pass crap like this. I don't even know who to trust anymore. I mean, how am I even saying the word trust when I'm talking about politicians in Washington, D.C.? Let me abuse my beer again. It's unbelievable, guys. This is unbelievable. I almost have my feelings hurt right now because a Republican put this thing up. I'm not saying I'm okay if he were co-sponsoring it. I mean, I've always known where Marco stands. I've never been a Marco supporter. But again, I almost have my feelings hurt because I am a Republican. I mean, I'm really a conservative. I just happen to vote Republican. But in the state of Louisiana, I had to register for a party. Well, I'm going to register Republican. I am a Republican. I'm the same party as this asshole. That's offensive to me that we are in the same party. That is offensive to me. Oh, man. Unbelievable this is happening, guys. I don't understand how no other Republicans have called this man out on this. How can nobody else you know why? Let me answer my own question. Nobody else, no other Republican in Congress has called him out on this because nobody else cares. None of these laws affect anybody in Congress. We need to have more discussions about how laws do not apply to members of Congress or anybody in Washington, D.C. A member of Congress gets to go to Congress. They got to serve one term, and then they get their pension and their pay for life with free health care, and they probably still keep their little license plate that says government on the license plate or something like that. These guys don't care about us. Once they get elected and serve one complete term without getting impeached or kicked out, they're in. They're in with the club. They're one of them. How awesome is that? I would love to have the perks they have. I would love that. Now, I could never look any of you in the eye if I ever went and took part in what these assholes do. But I'd love to have their perks. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't like to be in their 40s and their 50s, go to Washington, be around a bunch of stench and filth for 2 years if you want to be just a congressman, and then say, had enough, not running for re-election. I'm going to take my $174,000 a year and I'm going back to Louisiana. So I got 174 grand a year. I can live off of that. And then I got free health care, not that crap you got. It ain't Obamacare. I get to pick where I want to go, what I want done. I don't pay deductibles. I got it made. So does my family. Just that alone is enough. That's why these people protect these jobs so much. Look, man, we know what Dianne Feinstein is doing. We know Dianne Feinstein is coming after our guns. The lady has never hit it before. She keeps coming after them every single year. She's got a brand new assault weapons ban, all that kind of stuff. That's one of the things I was going to talk about tonight, her brand new 2019 assault weapons ban. But as I got to reading all this crap, it just really pissed me off the more I looked at it. And I'm like, man, I cannot believe, I can't believe this is the kind of stuff that we're even entertaining, the fact that it might pass. Y'all, I think this will pass. I think that's going to pass. I guess my next comment, and we got a few minutes left here, and this is an honest question to you guys. And let me wet my whistle because I'm drying up. Serious, honest question to all of you. Now, I'm gonna make a video asking people out there about this. What do we do? That's my question. What do we do? I don't believe that petitions work. I think they help, but I don't think they work. In other words, by themselves, petitions don't work. Again, they help a cause. So what I'm saying is, I still think petitions are necessary, but we can't rely on them. Emails are almost just a waste of time. I've told you guys before about this. When you go to a congressman or a senator's website, they all put them together the same way. So if you've been to one, you're going to see what they do. They list the main topics out there. They have a drop-down box. You click the drop-down box, and there's a list of things that come down. In other words, you don't get to choose your subject as far as being specific about your subject in the subject line. They make you choose from, 12, 15, 20 topics. They'll have guns. They'll have, it's usually hot topics, like things that are hot topics like right now. So right now, if you click a drop-down box at a congressman's website to comment, you're going to have guns, healthcare, immigration, probably the wall, campaign finance reform. They'll break it down. They'll break it down into, again, 15, 20 of the main topics out there. You got to choose one of those. Now, when you choose one of those, what happens with that is you go below there and you make your remarks. Now, the remarks is where you and I both think that we're really, all right, this is where I'm going to spell out what my problem is, and I'm going to let my congressman know. Okay, when you click what's in that drop-down box, nothing else matters after that. I mean this. Nothing else matters. I don't care what you could write, screw you in there. You could write, I have a bunch of money to give you. Please call me. You could write, somebody's breaking in my house, about to kill me. Somebody needs to get here right now. It doesn't matter what you put in the remarks section. Because when you chose, let's say, border security in the drop-down box menu, you know what happens? Your email address that you have to put in there now has been queued up. And when you select border security, the form letter that they have already typed out goes to you, to your email address. You get an email. It doesn't say, Paul, thank you for being specific, and I want to make sure that you know that we care about your exact concerns with Senate, with S7 that Marco Rubio put forth. I'll talk to Marco and see what he's, the blah, blah. No. It says, thank you for your concern about border security. We take all questions and concerns about border security very seriously, and we are doing our best to secure the borders in the United States to make sure that Americans can sleep freely at night and everybody is safe. That's what you get. You get that along with every single other person who chose border security, regardless of what you put in your remarks. My point is, emails to politicians don't do squat. If nothing else, all it does is they have a count. In other words, when you chose border security, they know how many emails went out on border security. So they know what things are important or not. In other words, if they don't get any emails that week or any comments on border security might not stay in that little drop-down box for much longer. They might replace it with something else. They might all of a sudden put transgender rights or some kind of bull crap in there now to see if anybody bites on that. So the only reason why you choosing something from the drop-down box really matters is they are getting a count on how many people had an issue with a certain subject. But as far as your remarks, whatever. I mean, you're wasting your time. I've wasted my time. Don't think I'm making fun of you for doing that, because I've done it many times. I still can't just send an email. I got to still go in there and add 10 pages of stuff. I'm thinking maybe someday somebody's going to read anything. And when they see it, they're going to see that I'm pissed, because I still write everything, but it doesn't do any good. The only thing that really does any good as far as reaching out to the politicians is calling them, because they're not going to hang up on you unless you get ugly with them and start cussing at them. So I call them and I let them have it. I will keep them on the phone for an hour and a half, just ripping their ass. I'm going to make sure that when they got off that phone, they remember who I am. My father-in-law, they know who he is by name. When my father-in-law calls down here in Louisiana to the senator or congressman's office, "Hello, Mr. Seymour, how are you again?" They know who he is, because he spent so much time on the phone with them. They know him by his last name. "Oh, it's you again?" Now, again, that's all well and good, but the congressman and the senator, you never talk to them. You never talk to them. So again, I go back to my question to you all. What do we do? You know, most of us work. So having a million-man march usually is not a very good idea. Even going to our state capitals is a little bit tough. I can't go leave for 2 or 3 days at a time and go do something like that. It's tough for me. When I go to some of these conventions and stuff like that for the gun shows, SHOT Show, that's the hardest thing in the world for me to do. I essentially have to shut my business down for a week because I run it. So again, what do we do, guys? I mean, I'm open to suggestions. I mean, do we go to our local city hall and, picket there? I mean, you run the risk. I don't know that I like the idea of people slinging AR-15s over their shoulder and walking around downtown. I'm just not comfortable with that. I just don't know what the thing is to do. I don't know what the next thing is to do. Does each state, each state has a, certain amount of representatives and 2 senators. Do we finally, as a gun community, elect people in our state to represent us as people? Since our politicians don't represent us anymore when it comes to gun rights, that's an idea that I've had for a long time. Do we as a group, do we form like a small coalition or a national coalition? I don't know what you do, and designate a certain group of people to be your voice, to be your ones that go down there and, and even let like the governor know, all the state representatives and all your federal representatives that are representing states and senators. Do you let them know, all right, Paul Glasgow is my representative for Second Amendment rights in this state. When he calls, you need the answer. Do we do something like that? I mean, do we go outside of the government and do similar to what the government has and have local representation for each state, but outside of the politicians? That's another way to show the politicians that we don't trust you. You've not done your job. So now we're going to try to do something that's set up like our forefathers actually intended, to have representation from each state, but we're going to go beyond you guys in law enforcement, in politics, because you haven't done your job the way our founding fathers expected you to. So here's my local representative. This is my guy who's going to represent me in our state now. And, maybe we have dues or something like that we collect so that we can send those people to Washington, D.C. to help lobby for us. I mean, it's just an idea. I mean, I think it's better when you have a lobbying arm that resides in Washington, D.C. It's a little bit tough because all they're doing, they can't really relate to the people in Louisiana, Wisconsin, California, that are spread out all over the country through, mainstream America. But if we take people from each state and send them directly over to Washington, and you have your guy from Wyoming, your guy from Louisiana or wherever, standing there, in the guy's face, in his office, now saying, look, our constituents, which include you, have a problem. Hey, Marco, I'm here from Florida. I need to talk to you. get proper clearance and all that so you can go on Capitol Hill and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I think there's something like that, like a major. I don't think we can keep doing the things that we keep always doing because they're ignoring us. They're totally ignoring us. And now that we have the people on the right, supposedly, that are partnering up with the people on the left and writing their own legislation for them, heck, we don't even need the Republicans anymore because they're not doing our bidding for us anymore. They're the turncoats just like the Democrats are. I don't trust a Republican out there after seeing crap like this. So what do? I don't know what the next step is. I wish I had the answer. I would love to be the one that sat here and said, I've got the answers, that I know what we need to do. I don't. I simply don't, guys. So I'm at a loss for words, man. I'm really, this is some weird stuff, man. This is some very weird stuff that's happening. And again, I don't see anybody opposing it because the Democrats are not, we have gone from being totally bipartisan to the gun stuff. That's what's going to make Democrats and Republicans vote together. But it ain't good for us. Up until now, everything a Democrat proposed was shot down by a Republican. Everything a Republican proposed was shot down by a Democrat. Not anymore. Marco will get full Democratic support for his little red flag law that he's proposing. So guess what? Marco Rubio, now if he decides to run for president again, can now say, I brought both sides together. Yeah, you did. Because you took the cause of the left and made it your own. So now, yeah, they agree with you because you just adopted one of their own causes, one of their own anti-gun causes. That's how you brought the right and the left together, Marco. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I gotta run. I have another beer to abuse. I'm going to put a video out on this. I'm going to probably everything we've talked about. So if I put a video out, you might not want to watch it because it's probably going to be a lot of the same stuff. But I am going to break this thing down in a video to where it's a little bit more digestible. Sometimes whenever I run on like this, it's hard for me to it's hard for me to be wise about how I talk about some of this stuff because I haven't had time to think about it. I'm just speaking on the cuff, off the cuff. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me and listening to me talk about this. I do want to make sure that we approach anything like this, anything that we talk about or anybody we talk to, that we still try to be respectable about it. Because as mad as I get about this kind of stuff, we can't talk to politicians or anyone else like that because they are looking for a reason to discredit us. They're looking for a reason, a justifiable reason in their minds to not have to deal with us because they don't want to. And as long as you're polite, they got to listen to you. So we have to remember to stay as polite as we possibly can. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. What I'll do is because I want to read y'all's I want to read y'all's comments because I haven't read one comment since I started talking, and I'm going to take my iPad down and I'm going to leave the stream going. I'll probably aim it at the ceiling. I am wearing pants, by the way, so I'm not I'm not aiming at the ceiling so I can get up because I'm not wearing any pants or anything. But yeah, I'm going to aim it at the ceiling just because, give you guys something to look at. And I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to try to hang out with you guys for a little while longer and just chat with y'all. So I'm going to grab me a cold beer and I'm going to run down there and just chill out. So I'll be back up to turn this thing off here in a little while. Until then, guys, I will talk to you in about 5 minutes. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate this. How's that?